Hi everybody, I'm starting a 3-part series on how the digestive system works, what can go wrong, and how to fix it. So today in part 1, we're going to be going over the upper GI tract, so that is the mouth, esophagus, and stomach. And I'm going to talk about how each part functions in the digestive system, what can cause things to get out of whack and lead to issues like esophagitis, gastritis, and acid reflux. And then I'm going to tell you how you can cure these things by addressing the root cause. If you don't know me already, my name is Kaylee. I'm a certified nutritionist and gut health specialist, and I love helping people to heal their chronic gut issues using principles like ancestral nutrition and other holistic health principles. So first, let's go over how your digestion starts. So the upper GI tract functions as a kind of staging area for the digestive system. It is here that food is broken down into small, manageable pieces, softened, lubricated, and liquefied. At the same time, proteins, amino acids, minerals, and other nutrients are extracted from food and processed to make them optimally available for the subsequent steps in digestion and absorption that take place later on. Any disruptions here will be felt and magnified far downstream. This quote is from Jonathan V. Wright and Lane Leonard from the book Why Stomach Acid is Good for You, and it is a great segue into how your digestive system works, particularly the upper GI tract. So digestion will actually begin with smell before you've even put any food in your mouth. So when you are cooking or someone else is cooking and you sit down to eat and you smell the food, that actually triggers you to salivate. And your saliva has enzymes in it that, along with chewing, help break down food in your mouth. So after you chew, you swallow. And your food moves through the esophagus and then into your stomach via a method called peristalsis, which is just small contractions in the esophageal wall that move your food down to your stomach. And fun fact, it only takes about 6 to 8 seconds for that to happen. So then what's called the lower esophageal sphincter, think of this as the little doorway between your esophagus and the top of your stomach, will open for just a few seconds to allow the food that you just swallowed into your stomach, and then it will close again to prevent any reflux from the stomach back into the esophagus. Once in your stomach, digestive juices like stomach acid and other digestive enzymes, along with stomach contractions, will further break down your food into a substance that's now called chyme. This chyme then travels out the pyloric sphincter, which is that little door between your stomach and then your small intestine. And after it slowly comes out of your stomach into your small intestine, bicarbonate ions from your pancreas and bile that's released from your gallbladder will come to neutralize it. Your stomach acid is very strong. It's a 1 to 3 on the pH scale. It's very acidic, and your stomach has a lining that protects itself from this acid and works fine, but your small intestine doesn't. So that's why food is let out very slowly and then neutralized very, very quickly so that the acid does not damage your small intestine. Now, digestion continues, but we're going to go over the rest of digestion in part 2 and 3. So now let's look at the problems that can occur here and how to fix them. And the first one is stress. The biggest problem at the beginning of digestion is not being relaxed enough. If you are too stressed or rushed, your body will be in the sympathetic fight or flight mode, which diverts energy and nutrients away from digestion, as well as inhibits the release of as much saliva, bile, and digestive enzymes. If you're rushed, you'll also likely eat too fast and not chew your food thoroughly enough, making more work for your stomach. So it's very important that you slow down and relax before eating. This will bring your body into the parasympathetic rest and digest mode, which, as its nickname implies, diverts energy and nutrients to digestion, as well as promotes the release of saliva, bile, and digestive enzymes. Slowing down will also help you to chew your food more thoroughly, which will lessen the work your stomach has to do. And it makes it easier to identify when your body is full and prevent overeating. All right, so to support these beginning stages of digestion, here's some things you can do. First, really make sure you're relaxed prior to eating. If you're not, take some time to calm down before you eat. This could be as simple as sitting on your porch and looking outside, reading a book you're excited about, talking to a loved one, going on a short walk, anything that calms you down and eases your stresses, makes you feel good. Just be sure that like stressed, tight stomach feeling is gone before you start eating, because if you try to eat on that stressed stomach feeling, your food's not going to get broken down well, and it's going to cause a lot of problems downstream for the rest of digestion, and you'll see how that plays out in this series. So also, this ties into the first tip, but make sure you schedule your day in a way that you actually have relaxed time before your meals, during your meals, and after your meals. You don't want to be doing something very physical or just something very unrelaxing right before you eat, because it's going to take you a second to relax enough to be able to eat. For example, you don't run and then eat immediately after. You usually wait a little bit for your body to relax and for your hunger to come in. So when you're thinking about your daily schedule, just be mindful of where you place your meals and make sure you have enough time to kind of relax before you eat. Make sure that you have relaxed time during your meals and right after. We don't want to eat and then get up and rush around right after, especially if you have digestive issues already. That's not going to feel good. You really want to make sure you're sitting down for at least 10 minutes after you eat and that you're sitting upright. You might need to sit a little longer. It doesn't mean you can't do anything productive. If you have computer work to do, for example, that is a great time to do it, but you just don't want to get up and move around a lot. So then, also another example here. So when you're scheduling your day, when I was younger, I had my digestive issues back when I was a kid, and when I was in high school, they were at their worst. And I used to rush to eat my food in the morning before school, and it just didn't sit well. I had to rush out the door to school right after. It never went well. Eventually, I decided that I would just bring my food to school with me, and I would sit down in class and just kind of let myself relax. And then when I felt hungry, I would pull out my breakfast and eat in class. And that worked so much better for me. So that's just a simple example of how switching your routine around can help here. All right, another thing you want to do is take a minimum of 3 really deep, relaxed breaths to calm your body right before every meal. You also want to eat slow and chew your food thoroughly. You can actually put your fork down between bites to help you slow down too. That's a neat little trick that can help. Also, don't really multitask. Try to focus just on eating. That's going to help your digestion a lot better. All right, so those are the main things to just help you be calmer and digest food better, just by putting your body in the right parasympathetic mode to be able to release those digestive enzymes, break things down better, and just digest food better. So the second problem that we run into is too low of stomach acid. Now, contrary to popular belief, too low of stomach acid causes problems like acid reflux, and you're going to see a lot more other problems too. Not too high of stomach acid. So too high of stomach acid is not a common problem at all, but too low of stomach acid is a very, very common problem. So what happens here is adequate stomach acid is needed to help break food down efficiently and then trigger that pyloric sphincter, that's the little door between your stomach and your small intestine, to open and allow your food, technically it's called chyme now, out into your small intestine. Without adequate acidity, food churns in your stomach for much longer, which can sometimes cause the lower esophageal sphincter, so that's that little door between your esophagus and stomach, to open and let some food and stomach acid up into your esophagus, and you get the burning, acidy feeling in your throat and that kind of throw up taste in your mouth. If this happens regularly, it can lead to problems in the esophagus like esophagitis, which is an inflammation of the lining of the esophagus that can cause pain and difficulty swallowing. Another consequence of repeated acid reflux and low stomach acid is a weakening of that lower esophageal sphincter, the door between your esophagus and stomach. As it gets weaker, you're even more prone to it opening and causing acid reflux, and when you don't have adequate acid, that also makes this sphincter sphincter weaker and more likely to open up. So also a very acidic environment, around 1 to 3 on the pH scale, is needed to release certain digestive enzymes in the stomach. So if your stomach isn't acidic enough, you won't thoroughly break down your food, and the burden of digestion will be passed on to your small intestine. You'll likely miss out on absorbing as many nutrients from your food too, since it's not getting broken down thoroughly enough, especially vitamin B12, folate, and iron, but there are other nutrient deficiencies that you can develop as well. Adequate stomach acid is also needed to kill off some microbes like H. pylori and prevent the overgrowth of microbes in your stomach and in your small intestine as well. So when stomach acid is too low, H. pylori thrives and it starts to multiply. It then works to decrease your acid even further so it can multiply even more. If you have adequate zinc can actually step in this process and prevent this from happening. But if you have zinc deficiency, your stomach acid is going to get a lot weaker here. So then H. pylori can start actually irritating your stomach lining and causing gastritis, which is inflammation of the stomach lining. And if it progresses even further, it can cause ulcers by actually creating holes in your stomach. There's a few other kind of causes and contributors to gastritis and ulcers. So those are going to be, one is an atrophy of the stomach lining, and the stomach lining cells actually shrinking. Those cells make hydrochloric acid, stomach acid. So if you have low HCl, this can happen. This is very common with aging. It's said that about 50% of people over 50 have this or a variation of this. Another thing that can contribute is autoimmune diseases. If you have an autoimmune disease and more inflammation in your body, you can also get more inflammation in your stomach. Alcohol consumption, taking medications, aspirin, ibuprofen can all contribute to this. Eating refined foods, coffee, being very stressed and having high cortisol levels in your body can also contribute. And one more thing is bile can regurgitate back into your stomach in certain situations. So bile is a substance that's made in the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and released into your small intestine to help break down fats so that you can actually absorb fats and the nutrients in them and not just have greasy stools. So if bile goes to your small intestine and it's supposed to stay in your small intestine, and what can happen sometimes is there can become blockages in the bile pathway. So this could be in the common bile duct. You can get gallstones, you can get sludge, things like that. And that can throw things off a little bit and throw off the direction it's going. And sometimes you can get bile going up into your stomach, which is not nice. And anyway, that can decrease your stomach acid, and sometimes you can even reflux that and get what's called an alkaline reflux, which is the bile going into your stomach and then being refluxed into your esophagus, which is very uncomfortable and could easily be confused with acid reflux. So those are some things that can contribute or cause gastritis and ulcers. But let's get back to stomach acid, because low stomach acid causes acid reflux, it causes the gastritis, causes a lot of issues in the body. So the very first thing you want to do here is you've got to ditch the antacids, the protein pump inhibitors or PPIs. Any kind of medication designed to lower your acid has got to go. That is worsening the problem. It's a terrible idea. They just have to go. Now, it's up to you. You can gradually decrease it, or you can go cold turkey, whatever feels more comfortable to you. Gradually always is kind of nice for your body to adapt, but don't take too long. You really want to get off those ASAP. You also want to eat very mindfully and relaxed. This will help your body to release the right amount of stomach acid, release those digestive enzymes, and just help get everything moving along in your stomach properly. You want to get plenty of zinc, magnesium, potassium, chloride, and sodium, because these nutrients are key for making your own stomach acid. So if you had, for example, acid reflux, and you got prescribed or you just chose to take an over-the-counter medicine for decreasing acid, like Tums and antacid, PPIs, anything like that, you have very low stomach acid right now, and you need to get your body making making your own stomach acid again. Even if you haven't taken the medicine, if you just have acid reflux regularly, or if you don't tolerate red meat very well, things like that are a huge sign you need more stomach acid. So you really need to get the nutrients that are the building blocks to make stomach acid for yourself. So I'm going to give you a few examples of foods that are high in these nutrients. This is not an all-inclusive list because that would just take several minutes. And you can look that up if you want. But anyways, so some good examples for zinc are seafood, oysters, especially crab, lobster, sea urchin are really good. Beef, lamb, Parmesan, and cheddar. For magnesium, salmon roe, seafood like halibut, crab, mackerel, blueberries, strawberries, dried figs, pears, coconut milk, cacao, and soaked or toasted nuts. For sodium, a good quality mineral salt is going to be the best. Seafood, olives, and salmon roe are also a good source. Chloride, sodium chloride, table salt, or not table salt, good quality mineral salt is going to be the best. So just make sure it's one that still has the minerals in it and it's not pure sodium chloride, and it's not refined. You want a good one. Celtic sea salt, Redmond's real salt are my favorite ones. So then potassium, pork, bananas, halibut, sea urchin, trout, avocado, bamboo shoots, dates, dried figs, squash, potato, cacao. There's a lot of different ones there. So those are some examples. Okay, next thing, don't lay down for 30 minutes after eating. Make sure you're sitting upright. And you can also just listen to your body. If you start to lay down and it doesn't feel good, sit back up. Your body should be upright for the beginning of digestion. It's going to make things function a lot better, and it's really going to prevent acid reflux, which brings me to the next point, which is don't eat too close to bed. Ideally, leave 3 to 4 hours between finishing dinner and going to bed if you're struggling with this. You have more wiggle room. If you're not, then 2 hours is fine, or it depends on the person. There are different benefits to eating closer to bed and waiting, but if you have digestive issues, waiting a little bit is generally going to be best. If you have acid reflux, gastritis, issues like that, esophagitis, wait at least 3, ideally 4 hours between finishing your last meal and going to bed. The reason for this is it takes about 3 hours in a healthy stomach to digest a whole meal and empty all of that into your small intestine. So if you are struggling with low stomach acid, it might take you longer. So if you wait a whole 4 hours between last bite of your last meal to going to bed, you'll ensure you have adequate time to empty your stomach fully into your small intestine. And if you don't have food churning around in your stomach, you're going to be a lot less likely to have acid reflux during the night, which really sucks. So this is a good way to prevent that. You also want to space your meals at least 3 hours apart. Now this is going to piggyback off the last tip that I had. So you don't want to add new undigested or barely digested food onto your stomach if it's full of half digested food. So say you finish your meal and 2 hours later you go to have a little snack and you add that on, your stomach kind of has to restart a lot of the digestive processes because now your snack is mixed in with your meal and they're digested to different degrees. So it just does not work as well. It doesn't feel good. I felt so much better when I got strict about at least 3 hours between meals, and I found it helps my clients a lot too. So definitely keep 3 hours between your meals. You'll digest your food better. You'll be less prone to acid reflux and things will just go a lot better. You also really want to support adequate bile flow. This is really important. Bile flow and stomach acid are kind of linked. So if you have more stomach acid, it will help your body produce more bile. And if you produce more bile, it kind of helps your body produce more stomach acid too. So I will leave a link up above and down below on how you can support adequate bile flow, because that's a bit beyond the scope of this video. You also want to not overeat. Overeating is a very easy way to get acid reflux and just for things to not feel so good. So then you also want to avoid drinking plain water and non-acidic beverages around your mealtime. So you can have apple cider vinegar water, which I'll get into in a second, or ginger lemon tea. Something like that's going to be okay. Bone broth is fine, but you don't want to have plain water, and you're likely going to want to avoid tea with your meal if you have this specific issue. So the reason for this is it's just going to dilute the acid in your stomach and it's going to bring the pH up, so less acidic if you're having a neutral beverage like water that's a 7 on the pH scale. So it's just going to dilute the acid, make it take longer for digestion, and not work so well. Now, if you don't have this problem and you're just curious about digestion, a little sip of water with your meal is not going to kill you. It's not going to be the end of the world, especially if you've got really strong stomach acid. But if you have weak stomach acid, you really want to avoid that. Wait at least 30 minutes on either end. So have your water, wait 30 minutes, eat your meal, finish your meal, wait 30 minutes before you have more water. It's great to drink water. You just want to make sure it's in between meals. So then you also want to eat plenty of fermented foods. Now, this is going to help with a lot of areas of your digestive health and overall health, but the specific reason here is because it's going to help fix the microbiome in your stomach and get that H. pylori down and get it to stop making your stomach more alkaline. So this isn't something that's going on for every single person, but it is something that can happen very commonly here. So it's just good to stay on top of it with eating plenty of fermented foods. Now, the last thing is going to be to increase the acid in your stomach by adding acid. Now, we talked about so far a lot of things that will help your body to produce more of its own stomach acid, which is the ultimate goal. But sometimes in this process, it can be really helpful to have either HCl, so hydrochloric acid, stomach acid, supplements, or to have apple cider vinegar. So by bringing the acidity into your stomach, it just kind of kickstarts things on the right process. So if you had the H. pylori overgrowth, for example, if you bring more acid into your stomach, that will kill that off, and then it will prevent the H. pylori from making your stomach acid more alkaline. So it's actually going to help fix a root cause in that sense. It's going to help you digest your food quicker so you won't get acid reflux. It's going to help you digest your food more thoroughly so you can absorb more nutrients out of it and make more stomach acid and digestive enzymes. So it's really a great thing for kickstarting your stomach acid and getting it on the right route again. So I mentioned 2 options. That's HCl or apple cider vinegar. So if you're going the apple cider vinegar route, you want to take 2 tablespoons. You can kind of push it to 3 if you want, but standard is 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar per 16 flow ounces of water. So that's 2 cups of water. And then you put a pinch of salt in it. You can put a little bit of cinnamon or ginger in it if you want. And then you drink that with your meal. So you can start drinking it after a few bites and then just drink it with your meal. And that will help a lot. Now, because this is an acidic drink, it is okay. It's going to help decrease the acidity in your stomach. So that's going to work great. Now, don't take shots of pure apple cider vinegar. That is not going to feel good on your throat at all. That is not a good route to go. So make sure you dilute it in the water. Now, that's one option. And yeah, you can do that with your meals. The other option is to take the HCl. Okay, so you can take the butane HCl, and what you want to do for that is you want to take 1 right after a few bites of your meal, see how it feels afterwards. If that felt good, do it again a few times, and then you can increase it to 2. If that feels good, increase it to 3. And you basically want to keep increasing till you find your sweet spot. So some people can end up taking 6 or 8 at first, but you might be on the lower end as well. So your sweet spot is going to be when your symptoms go away, so you no longer have acid reflux, but you don't feel that warm sensation. So if you feel this very warming sensation, that is too much for you and you want to decrease it. So once you find your sweet spot, you can just kind of keep taking that amount of HCl with every single meal. Again, make sure you take it after a few bites. Don't take it at the end, or sometimes it can get kind of stuck at the top of your stomach. And don't take it too early. You want to make sure it's really with your food. So that is another option. And then, you take it for a while, either the HCl or the apple cider vinegar. With time, if you start to get that warming sensation, you can decrease it gradually and then eventually get off it. So this is not something you're going to do forever. It's just something to help increase the acidity while your body gets used to making more of its own stomach acid. Now, a huge, really important note here. Don't do this if you have gastritis or an ulcer and it hurts, Because with gastritis, you have the inflammation of your stomach lining, and there's some wear and tear there. You know, a lot of the mucus layer has been stripped away. With an ulcer, you actually have a hole in your stomach. So a lot of times when people have gastritis or an ulcer, it will actually feel really bad when they take HCl or apple cider vinegar. So if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Your body's telling you that for a reason. And what will end up happening is eating will feel better for these kinds of people. But when you have just low stomach acid and it hasn't progressed to gastritis or an ulcer, the opposite is true. So eating will make you feel bad, but the apple cider vinegar or HCl will make you feel better. So if you're not sure what you have, you can get a test if you want, but you can also just do a simple test of, just take that apple cider vinegar water, see how it feels. If it makes you feel better, you just got low stomach acid, do all these things, keep taking the apple cider vinegar water, it'll be great. If it feels bad, you're just not ready for that step yet. So even if you have gastritis, it still has the root cause of low stomach acid. So you are going to need to address that by doing all the other things I mentioned, but you don't want to do the HCl and apple cider vinegar until you're ready. So first, you want to make sure you're getting plenty of L-carnosine in your diet. So you can look up sources of that to help you decrease inflammation. You can get it through food. Some people take a supplement. I'm definitely a food first kind of person. So same with vitamin D and zinc will help you to lower cortisol, lower stress, and decrease that stomach inflammation. So it's good to get that in your diet. And vitamin D you can just get by being out in the sun. You can get it from fatty fish, things like that too. So then another thing I've heard here is that cabbage juice, cabbage and chlorophyll, like in wheatgrass juice, can really help to heal your stomach lining. Haven't looked into that too much, so I'm not 100% sure on that one, but it seems like it's definitely worth a try if you're struggling here, especially if you just go for sauerkraut, because that has so many other benefits too. So it's definitely something that would help you out a lot. So after a few months of just letting your stomach lining heal, then you're probably ready to introduce some of the apple cider vinegar water or HCl to help get your stomach acid going back on the right track. So that is it for the first part of digestion. I will continue this in part 2. Part 2, we're going to be going over the small intestine, and I'll talk about what causes problems like leaky gut, autoimmune diseases, and nutrient deficiencies. So if you want to check out the second part of how the digestive system works, what can go wrong, and how to fix it, definitely subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you can be notified when part 2 and part 3 are out. And if you're watching this way in the future, I will have part 2 and part 3 linked down below so you can watch the entire series. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in part 2.